Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaeli Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello there, fierce leaders. Welcome to episode 41 of the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaeli Lindholm, and I just poured myself a glass of wine because I've got quite an episode for you today. So settle in because I am super excited to dive into this topic with you. Why leaders ignore national averages. So I have been racking my brain, y'all, to remember a time when someone called me and asked me to help them become average. But if I had $1 for every time I'm asked, what do most people do, Kaeli? I'd be a gajillionaire. I am routinely asked by clients and prospective clients, where their business should be. If you're a high performer, you know who your competitors are. And I am no psychologist, but I think we were conditioned to compete since we were children, right? Rankings on tests, times in relay races, who gets the bigger ice cream cone. We're programmed to compete. We're programmed to compare. But the problem is when we fall back into this way of thinking as adults and business owners, we end up in a vicious cycle of comparison trap. And worse, we end up building a business that is stacked up against someone else's version of success. If you haven't listened to episode 11, you may want to cruise back and have a listen to The Cure for Comparisonitis, where I address techniques to help you pull through this vicious trap of comparison. But listen, don't beat yourself up. I'm not creating this podcast because you're the only person or I'm the only person who's had these feelings. This is totally normal. I literally have these conversations on a regular basis. And by the way, I have had to coach myself through similar feelings. And so that is one of the reasons why I feel like I am qualified to share this perspective with you today. So what are some of the main questions around comparison? Well, I hear questions all the time. Some most commonly like, what do practices similar to mine produce in revenue? What is the average comp plan or pay scale for a specific type of employee? What kind of membership program works most for practices? Where should my business be? What is the national average for XYZ? Totally common questions, totally normal to wonder. But I thought I'd take this opportunity to share my answers to these common questions with you here and unpack the conversation around comparison and how it can impede your ability to differentiate your practice, to stand out from the competition, and in some cases result in chasing the wrong metrics altogether, metrics that are not linked to defining your own success. So here we go. Number 1. Success is subjective, not objective, meaning you will uniquely define your own success. It's likely that this will be a combination of financial results, your ability to practice how you want to treat high-quality patients who appreciate your value, work with passionate staff, have low stress levels, have a work-life balance, create meaningful impact in the world, and have a cash reserve that can self-multiply. However you define it, success will be unique to you. Number 2, there is no benefit to comparison with other practices. Comparison is typically done using objective measurements, i.e. revenue, number of patients, schedule, capacity, profit, size of the practice, etc. The problem is none of these data points tells the whole story. Taken out of context, these metrics are simply useless. For example, is a practice that generated 20% more revenue than yours doing better than you? What if that other practice is filled with staff drama, has significant patient and staff turnover, and is up to its eyeballs in debt? Is it still more successful than your practice? Number 3, comparison to average is useless. First of all, you're not average. We can always find some practices that are generating more revenue, more profit, seeing more patients, have more Instagram followers, and we can always find someone that is generating less. Are you therefore better than those below you and worse than those above you? Number 4, comparison to competitors leads you to focus on the wrong things. So this is sort of my point. When you're asking questions about what are they doing, what are most people doing, or looking on social media at somebody else's practice and seeing what they're showing you, you're not seeing the whole picture. And by the way, identifying the superficial metrics of a competitor as being better than yours puts you in a mindset of lack and scarcity. In an effort to get bigger, faster, busier, you end up copying the work that they do, which at best will leave you with a copycat version of their practice. P.S. This is where commoditization comes from. Number 5, seek inspiration, not competition. So rather than comparing numbers, look for peers, or pro tip, look for companies or organizations outside of aesthetics that inspire you. Who has built a business they love? Who has incredible patients or clients who love them? What aspects can you emulate in your practice? What is their process? Where is their focus? What are they thinking about? What kinds of questions are they asking? Okay. Number 6, compete with yourself. Focus on achieving your goals. Do you have a clear vision of success for your practice? What does it look like? Where are you now? What can you do to move toward your goal? How are you getting better or closer? I listened to a podcast this morning with Mark Cuban, who was talking about wanting to have blood work done on a regular basis. Apparently, there was some controversy around this, but he wanted to have blood work done to really establish his baselines for his health metrics so that if he did get sick, he could really monitor how he had been advancing or how certain elements of his blood had changed or his values or lab work had changed from one measurement to another. Apparently, there's some controversy around this, but the point is he didn't want to be measured if he was to get sick. He didn't want to be measured to an average white 50-year-old male. He wanted to be measured against himself. And I think that's the only way to think about building a business. That's the only way to think about what membership programs, what staff, what compensation, all of the things related to what's going to drive your business is going to be unique to you, to your success measurements, to the type of business that you're building, to the people that you want to have, the people you want to be around every day. That's totally unique to you. And if you're not focused on that, if you're not focused on looking internally, it's so easy to get caught up in measuring yourself against what somebody else tells you that you should be at. It's just, I have such an aversion to this whole national averages or comparison game because I think that is the single really most detrimental thing that I have seen throw practices off of their game. Staying focused on their own success. And the bottom line is success is individual. Don't let someone's statistics pull you into a manufactured system of comparison. When you make decisions from a place of insufficiency, you risk rushing, making impulse decisions, and plugging holes, which ultimately creates a boomerang effect of problems, ultimately robbing you of joy and richness of creativity, impact, and autonomy. And as the great past president Teddy Roosevelt so nobly stated, comparison is the thief of joy. And it is my wish for you, fierce leaders, that you find deep joy in what you do. And as you advance blissfully into your multi-million-dollar enterprise, or you advance into one day a week of work, sipping a pina colada on an island in your bikini and or whatever your dream is, you do it while singing karaoke with the great Frank Sinatra echoing, "I did it my way." P.S. If you would like to take this conversation to the next level, or you'd like to receive weekly updates on events, free trainings, resources, and good old-fashioned edutainment, you can subscribe to my email list at www.klcconsultants.com/join. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you letting me have my little rant about national averages, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Fierce Factor. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure you subscribe so you can automatically get new shows every week. I'd also love it if you left us a review. And come join the conversation online. If you're an aesthetic industry owner, operator, or leader, please join my free Facebook group, The Tribe of Fierce Aesthetic Leaders, a community of ambitious, purpose-driven professionals who collaborate and share best practices for growth in business and life. I'm honored you tuned in.